Take Back Your Health Now, episode 46.
You're listening to the Take Back Your Health Now podcast, the show that interviews the top doctors, athletes, trainers, and entrepreneurs to help you find the holy grail of health. Now here's your host, Dr. Dan Margolin.
This is Dr. Dan Margolin with another segment of Take Back Your Health Now, where we pull out all the stops in search of health's holy grail. We are very excited to have a great guest with us, Jay McFall. She's been an organic gardener for over 50 years and an organic landscape designer for over 30. Jay McFall is a master gardener and organic garden educator. She grew up on an organic farm in rural Michigan where her parents taught her self-sufficiency. The family grew fruits, vegetables, berries, and nuts, canned and froze their produce, made pickles, and baked their own breads and cakes. In 1986, McFall purchased the family farm from her parents and continued to grow organic crops there until 2001, when she sold the farm to follow a dream to help others. As part of that, she moved to Clearwater in 2005. Part of her job is educating gardeners or aspiring ones about the type of soil and supplements they need to use. At Organic Living Garden Center, you can find Jay showing off her gardens to anyone who stops by. The lush shrubs and plants are not only beautiful to the eye, but delicious too. Jay, hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So Jay, talk to us, like what started your interest in organic farming? Was it growing up on a farm? Like, take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, my parents bought a farm that had been a berry farm. So it was 10 acres. And so we had all kinds of berries and grapes and cherries and peaches. And we had a huge garden down front. We raised all our own meat. So we had cows and goats and ducks and pigs and chickens.
Wow.
So we grew up eating just really, really good food. And it's always been something I love. I love playing in the dirt.
That is so cool. That must have been a great childhood growing up there.
It was. And I even had my own horse.
Oh, nice. This is like childhood dream. You lived my childhood, Jay.
Good.
So Jay, so you ended up buying the farm from your parents in 1986? Is that what it was?
Yes.
1986. So what made you decide to actually take over the farm at that point?
Well, I had been living on that place for a long, long time, and I loved it. And I wanted to do something to make a difference. So I studied to become a landscaper, and I realized I can create beautiful, edible gardens.
Wow.
And so that's what I did for many, many years until 2001 when I sold the farm, because it was working me instead of me working it, you know?
What do you mean?
10 acres is a lot of land to take care of for one person. Plus I had my own business and everything else, and it was just a bit overwhelming.
It got too much for you. I understand. You know, it's funny that you're saying that. I've always thought, I grew up in New Jersey, New York area, and you see all the trees and the shrubbery. And I thought, my God, wouldn't it be something if we switched our viewpoint and planted trees and shrubbery that you could eat? I mean, it would solve so many of the problems of the world if we just sort of changed our viewpoint. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you remember, during the wars, they had victory gardens. So everybody had gardens. But before that, everybody had gardens because they had to eat. It's not a new thing that we should be gardening, but we're so far away from the farms, living in cities and not even having areas to grow food in, that people have lost the knowledge of how to garden. They don't even know how to cook anymore.
I saw a study that said there was a study in the UK, I think, where they asked people like what level of cooking they could do, and there was a large percentage that did not know how to boil an egg. I mean, it was like insane. I mean, it's really reached that point in many ways.
Exactly. I started cooking when I was 4 years old, and when my son was 4 years old, I said, "Okay, grab a knife. Let's make dinner." So we've always made everything from scratch, and it tastes so good when you just create your own meals with healthy nutrition.
Do you, Jay? Do you ever go out and eat at like restaurants and things like that? I mean, are you completely organic in terms of that, or have you ever gone to like an Olive Garden or something like that?
No, I do a lot of networking groups, and when the waitress comes and says, "What would you like?" I say, "Could I see your organic menu, please?" And they always say, "We don't have one." I said, "Well, then I'm sorry, I can't order."
Wow. And let me ask you, what are your concerns? Why is that? Why is it so important to you to be organic?
All right, that's perfect segue into I'm going to send you a couple of things that you can put on your website so that people can see it in person. But in 1936, the government released a document that basically said most of us are suffering from certain diet deficiencies which cannot be remedied until the soil from which our food comes is brought back into proper mineral balance. For one thing, that hasn't happened. It's got much worse. And then they go on to say the alarming fact is that food, now being raised on millions of acres of land that no longer contain enough minerals, is starving us no matter how much we eat. So that's one reason we have such an amount of obesity in this country, because there's no nutrients in the food. And people keep eating and eating because the body says, give me nutrients, and there aren't any. And then the final thing that was on that document says, lacking vitamins, the system can make use of minerals, but lacking minerals, vitamins are useless.
Wow. And this was when was this written?
1936.
Yes, it has not improved since then. Absolutely not, huh?
Right. So there's a lot of malnutrition in our country. And the other thing is, because the soil has no nutrients, the plants are not healthy. And an unhealthy leaf actually turns into a simple sugar and sends out a fragrance to the bugs that say, eat me, I'm sweet. So then we get bugs, we get diseases, we get problems, and all they're doing to solve that, and I'm saying solve in a not true way, they're spraying herbicides and pesticides and all kinds of poisons on our food. So there's a lot of toxins in the produce. So I'm also going to send you a copy but our listeners could actually go to the internet and put in the Dirty Dozen of Foods, and it'll pop up, and they can download that for themselves to take shopping. But the Dirty Dozen is actually the 12 most toxic fruits and vegetables that you can buy in the grocery store. And number one is strawberries, then apples, nectarines, peaches, celery, grapes, cherries, spinach, tomatoes, sweet bell peppers, cherry tomatoes, and cucumbers.
Oh my God! Everything that I like.
Right. Everything that we love.
Why are these things toxic, Jay? Why are they so toxic?
Because they're trying to grow them in big quantities in land that doesn't have any minerals. So the bugs and the diseases set in, and they're spraying them with all kinds of chemicals to kill the bugs. Nobody wants to buy an apple that has a bug bite out of it, you know?
Right, right. So you're saying that what's really happening is the minerals are no longer in the soil, so they're not being put into the plants and the vegetables and things like that. And so because of that, they're sick and they're being attacked by the bugs, and then we're treating the symptoms by then spraying the fruits and with all these poisons. And so it's a vicious cycle, it sounds like.
Exactly. And what I do is I teach people to solve the real solution, give them the real solution, because that is to prepare your soil properly.
So tell us that. So how is your process different than the farming, I guess, we've been exposed to up to this point?
Well, the reason back in 36 they tested the land was because big winds had gone through the Midwest and taken all the topsoil. That's basically what happened. So they're growing in subsoil that isn't the type of soil that plants can grow in. So what we need to do is actually, a lot of people have soil, but they don't have the minerals. So I always bring in some like compost and mix it in with the soil, but we have to put the minerals in. And all the fertilizers everywhere are man-made from petroleum products, and they contain 3 minerals: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So it's actually not healthy for the plant because it's petroleum products.
Jay, I'm going to stop you for 1 second because you're blowing me away, because I started gardening several years ago myself. I put in a little orchard in my house, and I started using the fertilizers that I was buying, I guess, not knowing very much about it. And I actually found that it didn't work. I mean, it was very difficult to grow anything. And I sort of gave up thinking that I didn't have a green thumb. But maybe what I just didn't have is the right soil.
Exactly. See, do you know how many minerals should be in the soil to have healthy plants?
Absolutely not.
90.
90. Wow.
90. And our bodies need those same minerals. So if you don't prepare the soil and put in the minerals and the microorganisms, which are the same microorganisms in it as they are in our gut, and they do the same thing for the plants as the ones in our guts. They help us absorb, take up, and utilize the nutrients. So you have to replace those microorganisms as well. Now, here's 2 definitions. Minerals are elements essential for life. Essential, we cannot do without them. And the microorganisms are alive, and they can't live without minerals either. So you have to prepare decent soil. Down here in Florida, we live on a giant sand dune. So we have to dig big holes and put the soil in, or do it in raised beds or in pots or in tower gardens. But you still have to get soil, because what soil does is holds on to the moisture and the nutrients in order for the plants to take them up. So you have to have soil, but you have to add the minerals and the microorganisms.
Now let me ask you a question, Jay. I've read things where one way of bringing minerals in, and tell me if this is correct or not, is mushrooms. That mushrooms actually are nature's way of bringing up some of the minerals from the deeper soil. Is that true?
Well, kind of. I've been doing some research lately on growing mushrooms because I want to grow some, but they're using a lot of things that I consider to be very, very toxic, like they're using cottonseed meal. All cotton is very heavily sprayed with toxins. They're using a lot of soy and corn. Both of those are full of genetically modified organisms. So I'm looking at what they're growing mushrooms in these days, and I'm not trusting it as much as I would have 10, 20 years ago.
Wow. So the concept is correct.
Yes.
It's just that the mushrooms themselves, I understand. So how would we, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Well, I was going to say mushrooms are basically growing on organic matter to break it down to make it into dirt so that we can use it. That is what mushrooms do.
It's amazing to me that nature has its own. It's really a full complement of everything you need. I never understood what mushrooms were for until I started doing a little bit of research on it, and it really is part of that whole ecosystem. So with all these 90 essential minerals that need to be added to our soil, how do we do that, Jay? How do we do that?
Well, there's not a whole lot of different ways, because we've used our soil for so long without putting in the nutrients that we actually have a lot of dead soil around. So I have 4 products that I sell. One of them is mine from an ancient seabed out in Nevada. So it's God-made, not man-made. It's balanced because it's from an ancient seabed. It's chelated, which means it's already been through a living organism. And what that means is that the plants can take it up instantaneously as soon as you water it into the roots. So it's got 90 minerals in it. And it's not just for plants either, because minerals are elements essential for life. So we put it into the soil, and we also have human grade minerals that people can actually take in capsules. And we've used the minerals to make dogs better. I have a veterinarian that actually patented it, and he gives it to all his patients.
Well, how did you find out about that, Jay? How did you give me the background as to you recognize that there's no minerals in the soil, and you start to research and find, like, how did that all occur?
Well, that was a total not planned thing. Like, I always used to use minerals and trace minerals and microorganisms when I lived up in Michigan. But when I moved down here, I moved in with a woman whose husband had worked at the mine for 10 years, and he had a whole garage full of the minerals. But he didn't like selling, so they just sat in the garage.
Huh.
So I became the distributor for this area, and it's wonderful.
Serendipity.
Yeah.
My God, huh?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. So you start selling that. What kind of results did you start to see in your own gardens?
Well, okay, I've been an organic gardener for over 50 years. My first 2 gardens down here in Florida were miserable failures because, like I said, we only have sand down here. So I started a garden in my backyard in Clearwater. And of course, I did exactly what I teach people to do now. I dig huge holes, get rid of the sand, bring in good dirt, put in the minerals and the microorganisms. And within 2 years, I had over 40 fruit-bearing plants. I had in-ground beds, above-ground beds. I had a little pond with fish and a waterfall. It was gorgeous and lush. And a peach tree that I picked up at the farmer's market that was about 3-4 foot tall in a year and a half was at least 8 foot tall, 4 foot wide, and it had over 600 peaches that I harvested.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. I've put in 4 peach trees. One died. Okay, 3 of them are. This is probably 5 years ago. They're probably at the most 6 foot tall. At the most, one of them is probably 4 foot tall. So what you're saying is, like, I just thought trees take forever to grow.
No, they don't. Well, now I live in Florida, so it's a different landscape than yours, different climate. But yeah, within a year and a half down here, planting the way I tell you to do, people's gardens get big and full and lush. And what I did is I started inviting people into my gardens, and people would look around and they'd go, "Jay, you can't grow gardens like this in Florida. You must be using magic." And I heard that so much that I call my products garden magic.
Wow, that's great.
And there's only 4 of them. And that's what I've discovered is these 4 things added to the soil are exactly what the soil needs to become healthy and the way it was a long, long time ago.
So, Jay, I cut you off. You said the first one, which was from the seabed. What are the other 3?
Okay, number 2 are the microorganisms. That's the plant's immune system. Garden Magic number 3 is a superfood. And this one is especially important for those fussy plants like tomatoes and papayas and bananas and stuff like that. But I've done enough research on it and experiments to find out that everybody loves it. So it's a mixture. Do you know what guano is?
Guano? I'm thinking that's some sort of poop, but
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So it's got bat guano in it, worm castings, which is worm poop, and some organic blood meal. It's a mixture together, and everything takes off. I had a woman come in on a weekend and say, I've got about 8 pots of plants in my patio, and they all look like they're dead or dying. What do I do? I said, feed them. So she took home these 3 products and came back on Thursday and said, I can't believe the difference. This stuff really is garden magic.
Wow.
Even my husband came to me and said, what did you do to those plants? Because they're all now lush and beautiful.
Unbelievable. But you're answering. So maybe I don't have maybe I don't not have a green thumb. Maybe I just have poor soil.
I'm going to send you a paper that says how to plant your fruit trees, and you follow that, and I guarantee they'll take off.
All right, I'm excited. I'm actually very excited to try that. Now, did you give us the 4?
I did not. Have you ever heard of biochar?
I have not.
Okay, it was developed by the Mayan Indians, and because our time is getting short, I'm not going to go into details on it, but it holds 5 times as much moisture as regular soil. It holds on to the minerals, but releases it when the plants need it. It's the perfect living place for the microorganisms. Carbon, it's got a lot of carbon in it, so it helps purify the water in the soil. But the most important thing is that it holds the carbon in the soil, and carbon is to plants what oxygen is to us.
So you're planting into this? Like what percentage of this would be utilized with the soil?
Per tree, 1 bag, which is 5 gallons. And for gardens, 1 to 2 inches on top worked in.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So if we do those 4 things, what should we expect? And if we're like comparing a garden that would normally be grown in, let's say, fertilizer that you buy at a regular store versus what we're looking at here, are we looking at doubling the crop? What would you say on average?
Oh, probably 10 or 20 times the crops.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Just imagine if you had a kitten and you just gave it watered down milk for like weeks. How healthy would that be?
Not too healthy.
Right. People are giving their plants NPK fertilizers, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, man-made from petroleum products. It's not what a plant would want to eat, and it doesn't have the 90 minerals. It's actually toxic because it's from petroleum products. So,
Jay, when I go to these garden centers, do the people that are working there, do they know this? I mean, is this widely known? I mean,
no, it's not taught in college.
it's like a lost technology. How did it get lost? Like, why is it not?
Well, most of the farmers can't compete against the big commercial farmers, and they're selling out their farms and they're putting up subdivisions, and it's hard work to be a farmer. And so the farms are disappearing.
Wow, it's so sad. I mean, you look at like times during the Great Depression in the 1930s, where the large majority of our country was farmers, right? Something like 90%. Maybe I'm off by those numbers, but still there was some starvation. Now it's like the reverse. Maybe 5% of our people. God forbid we ever get hit with another depression. Are you concerned about that? I mean, what do you think of that in terms of that?
Well, I think everybody should grow some of their own food. If you've got a yard, you've got a lot of room to grow stuff in. And here in Florida, I eat out of my garden every single day. And, the other definition I wanted to give you is minerals are what gives food its flavor. So when you go to the grocery store, even if you buy an organic tomato and it's big and beautiful and you cut it open and it has no flavor, that means it has no minerals.
Wow, I've had that. Absolutely. I think we can all relate to that. Jay, you talk about tower gardens and explain what that is.
Well, a tower garden is basically pots that are wider than they are tall, and they fit into each other so that you can grow 4 plants in each level, and you can grow as high as you want. And I will send you some pictures of those. And they're very easy to grow in. And down here in Florida, I change them out throughout the year, and they're just full and luscious and beautiful.
Now, are these things people that live in apartments and maybe have a porch or patio or something? Is that something that they can grow their produce in?
Yes, if you have 2 feet by 2 feet, you can grow a tower garden.
And what are you looking at in terms of production on that? What would you actually get out of something like that?
Well, you can grow lettuce for quite a few months out of that. And they get big and lush, and you just harvest the outside leaves and let the middle keep growing. You can put kale and various different plants, peppers. It's almost unstoppable what you can grow in them.
That is exciting. What do you think about like in colder weather areas, New Jersey, that area? What do you think about the greenhouses?
Well, it's a good idea up there because then you can grow food throughout the winter as well. But if you've got a sunny area inside, you could bring the tower gardens in for the winter and grow stuff then, and then put them back out for the spring, summer, and fall.
Amazing. Jay, do you teach people how to do this? Is there videos, or how would people that want to do this, how would they get in touch with you? How would they do this?
go to my website, which is Organic Living for All. It's FORALL. So organiclivingforall.com. And I've got a lot of videos, and people can always order my products and I'll ship them to them. And they can always call me and ask questions.
Jay, one other thing, this show, we're looking for sort of the holy grail of health. If I were to ask you what you think the holy grail of health is, what is that?
We've got to get our minerals back into our bodies. Our bodies, this is what most people don't understand. Our bodies were created to heal themselves. All we have to do is give the body what it needs to heal. Everybody has cancer cells in their body. Our body automatically gets rid of them when the conditions are correct. So if you're eating a lot of sugar, that feeds the cancer. If you're not eating sugar, it allows the body to get rid of the cancer. But we need minerals, because minerals are elements essential for life. And every function of our body depends upon having minerals. Remember, lacking vitamins, the system can make use of minerals, but lacking minerals, vitamins are useless. So people can be buying the most expensive, best quality vitamins, but if they're not putting the minerals in the body, they can't use it. So you're wasting your money.
Wow, Jay McFall, what a powerful interview. Jay, thank you so much. Just in terms of, you gave your website, any other way to get in touch with you for people?
I have a Facebook page and a Facebook group. So my Facebook group is Thriving Organic Living. And I invite you all to join it because I put a lot of content on that.
Jay McFall, thank you so much for being with us. You really gave us information that I don't think I've ever heard anywhere else.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by New Jersey Foot and Ankle Center in Oradell, New Jersey. Remember, when you have a foot problem, you've got a foot doctor in the family. Weekend and evening appointments are available. Call us at 201-261-9445. Once again, that's 201-261-9445. Thanks for listening. Check out the show notes over at drdanspeaks.com. If you're loving the show, head over to iTunes and leave us a review, and we'll catch you next time.